Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another match preview. And hopefully, this time in a couple of days, we're going to have something to celebrate because the last, 2 or 3 months still, it's just not been great. We've been trying to be as optimistic as we possibly can on these previews, and it's becoming tougher and tougher each week as we go along. Welcome back to Irons United. My name is Anton. I am joined by Stell for our Southampton preview. We travelled to St Mary's away from home on Saturday live in front of the cameras. Stell, Southampton, let me know your thoughts. Just very brief thoughts on Southampton.
Well, another tricky game, isn't it? Another tricky away game. It's unbelievable that it's a 6-pointer. Southampton are not going to be an easy team to beat. And they've changed the formation recently, haven't they? Where all of a sudden their formation is now a 4-4-2, and it's beginning to reap some reward. And that's a slight concern for us because their manager, Hassan Huttle, has seen a problem. He's addressed it, and by addressing that problem, he's begun to see some benefits. The first time he changed it to a 4-4-2 was against Arsenal, and they drew 2-2. And then their next 2 games after that was Watford and Norwich, where they won 2-1. Now, they did lose last week to Newcastle, but they still scored a goal. And it seems to have benefited Danny Ings amongst all, who's got, I think he's their current top goal scorer at the moment, but in the last 4 games, he's scored 4 goals. Yep. So he's on fire. The team are looking like it's the change of tact, the change of formation is beginning to reward them. And it's if this was any other time, I'd say it was an opportune moment for us to go out there and get a result against them. But after the way we've been playing, given that our manager doesn't seem to want to change tactics, and then you look at Hassan Huttle and what he's done, I'm apprehensive. They're a beatable team. They've only kept 2 clean sheets throughout the season, but they've conceded 35 goals this season. They've conceded almost as many, double the number of goals than they have scored. So they are a beatable team, but they're up against us, and at the moment we're not playing in a way that can beat other teams.
And we seem to be always kind of struggling when it comes, or we come up against the side when they've got players in form, and players like that lavish the opportunity to come up against a team like West Ham. You mentioned Danny Ings. He's got 9 goals this season. Like you said, he's scored in the last 4 games. He's a player that West Ham have been linked to in the past. A player, in actual fact, that I was like, I don't want West Ham to sign, but I feel like I could just eat my words left, right and centre right now because I mean, those 9 goals he's given back to Southampton alone are worth the transfer fee that they paid for him, which wasn't probably a lot, and what that could do should Southampton survive. There is no ifs or buts about it, though. Southampton have been struggling, although things have started to change in their favour. Probably ever since that game against Leicester, that disastrous night where they were defeated, was it 9-0?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, by Leicester.
Some ridiculous score, yeah.
By Leicester, but between Danny Ings, they've got Shane Long. Like, you've got these kind of 2 seasoned pros of the Premier League that, on paper, as West Ham fans, if we had signed them, the majority of West Ham fans would have probably seen them as negative signings, but in actual fact are the sort of signings that West Ham probably actually need.
You know what it is. What it is how you use your players, isn't it?
Yeah.
They can be the best players in the world. They can be the most expensive players in the world. And I know we'll come to West Ham, in a minute. But if you don't use your players in the correct way,
yeah,
they're not going to produce. And what Hassan Huttel has done is he's looked at his squad and he's decided that this squad is better suited to playing in this formation in order to try and get the best out of them. And he started to succeed. And I think you're right. I think if we ever signed Shane Long or if we ever signed Danny Ings, there would have been an uproar. People would have been really upset, going, this isn't what we were promised. We're going backwards. We're signing half-hearted players, etc., etc. But what Hassan Huttel has done is he's taken okay players and he's utilised them in a way that he's getting the best out of them. And that's the big difference, and that's the massive frustration we have as West Ham fans at the moment. So I think you're right, mate. I think if we'd have signed these players, no one would have thanked the board for it. The board would have been given a lot of grief for it. But Hassan Huttel is playing to the squad strengths.
Yeah,
and it's reaping reward.
There's a lot more players within the Southampton squad, though, that I actually do quite like. I mean, I've always looked at a player like Nathan Redmond, and I've always thought, I like him. He's a seasoned pro again in the Premier League. He's capable of running up and down those wings. He's got a great delivery on him. There's a lot of fans that probably say his performances dip every now and then, but what player's performance doesn't dip when you're playing in a side that aren't performing that well? But sometimes you need that kind of spark, and I think he's got that capability and that spark, and he's a player that, I mean, I would never knock back coming to West Ham, if I'm being brutally honest. On top of that, I know a lot of other guys that we talk to have got massive things to say about James Ward-Prowse. Kind of demanding midfielder. I mean, again, is he a potential? I mean, am I again jumping the gun here? Is he a potential player that West Ham could find himself going for?
I think Ward-Prowse would have been the type of player that we would have been happy with. A young, up and coming player with a lot of energy about him, and I think a lot of fans would have turned around and said that was a decent signing. That's something that we could look forward to. And we haven't done so. We haven't looked at getting him in. And I dare say there will come a point where bigger clubs will come in for him eventually. He's that sort of player that West Ham would have done well to sign. And he's the sort of player that you're absolutely right. At the moment, he's the sort of player I think we would really need in the West Ham side. He'll bring some energy into the team. And also he's also benefited from the recent change. I mean, he's got 4 goals. He's their second top goal scorer with 4 goals. But he's scored 2 in the last 4 games as well. So the change of tactics, the change of formation, is not only benefiting Ings, but it's also benefiting a player like Ward-Prowse as well. And he's got a good free kick on him as well. He's a decent player. And I don't think the fans would have been upset if we'd gone in for a player like that. I can sort of understand it to a point with players like Shane Long and players like Danny Ings. But with someone like Ward-Prowse, he'd be, I can imagine him playing well alongside someone like Declan Rice. I wouldn't say he'd be a bad choice. Absolutely. And it's interesting because even though Southampton are suffering, and we've been saying for quite a few seasons that there's going to come a season where Southampton will eventually go down. And I think a lot of us thought it would be this season, given how badly they started the season. But as I've just mentioned, in the last 4 games, they've had a change around. They've won 3. They've won 2. They've drawn 1. Ironically, they drew 2-2 against Arsenal when they changed the formation. And they only lost to Newcastle. Wasn't it that goal that Shelby scored that I think everybody else stopped? Is it that, So it's kind of, I think they, in a way, I know you play to the whistle, but in a way, they were almost unlucky to lose that game because of that decision. So they haven't done badly. And they would have been a team that with their early form, a lot of us would have said they're going down. But they do have the players and especially now with the manager's decision to change formation, it looks like they could maybe pull out of it.
I mean,
Much to the detriment of us.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting stat is over the last 4 Premier League games for Southampton, on average, they have made between 12 to 15 attempts on goal on average over the last 4 games, in comparison to West Ham's 7 to 9 attempts on goal, where there's a little bit of let's just go and take the game to the opposition, and in terms of Southampton and compared to West Ham. Things like that concern me a bit. Like, we'll come on to West Ham in a minute about the kind of, we're on top of a game, let's go and finish off the game, that we're never really capable of doing. Another player I want to talk about, though, with regards to Southampton is Bertrand. I think he's a fantastic fullback. He's pacey, but he's also a good defender. And again, he's someone that I look at and I think to myself, because Southampton have always had this, core of players throughout their years that they've nurtured, do well, and then sold on for profits, and then had to start again and bring through the next talent, and season pros in the Premier League, and they are capable of doing that. And
they seem to have, they seem to have consistently done it well over the years.
But could you imagine that if this is? I mean, just imagine if Southampton were able to have kept quite a lot of that talent in that. And I mean, if you think about the players that Mane. I probably should have done a bit more research in terms of the names, but I mean, Theo Walcott came through the ranks there, and they've kind of done it through the years of their Premier League era, and that's probably where they look for just staying in the league but balancing the books at the same time. And I suppose they do it like they're not so yo-yo-ish. They just are regular 15th to 17th spot in the Premier League. I don't know what your thoughts are on what I've said there about Southampton.
And I think that, I might be wrong. The Southampton fans, I think, seem to accept that. They acknowledge that they're never, they might get the odd season where they might do really well, and maybe toy with Europe, Europa place or something like that. But I think a lot of the fans seem accepting of the fact. I might be wrong, but they might be accepting of the fact that they're always going to be a mid-table team, so long as they don't go down, so long as they nurture all this talent, and it does keep them ticking over financially. I think they kind of, they want to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I don't think their aspirations go much higher than that. And please forgive me if any Southampton fans hear that and think I'm wrong. Then please say so.
Yeah.
And I know I'm trying not to get onto us, but we've had all this promise of being much more aspirational, and I think that's the big difference. Where Southampton know what they're about in terms of what type of team they are in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think they have the academy to nurture these young players who seem to go on to other teams. You mentioned Mane, and players like that, who have gone on to do great things with bigger clubs. And hindsight's a wonderful thing, because if all our teams, even ourselves, had kept all our good players, all our young prospect players in the past, I'm sure Southampton would be riding much higher up the league than they are, and we would have done in the past as well. So they Absolutely. I agree with you. I think they do nurture, they do find a way of allowing young talent to express themselves and show what they're really capable of. Ward-Prowse will be bought by a bigger team at some stage
Absolutely.
in the future. Yeah. And Bertrand, I'm surprised Bertrand hasn't played, or hasn't succeeded in playing for a much bigger team. But West Ham could do with someone like him. I would have him.
Absolutely.
He's a decent left back, and he's a very capable left back. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree that they do have a knack of nurturing their young talent. Absolutely.
Let's not get things wrong, though. At the end of the day, Southampton have conceded 35 goals this season. They've conceded more goals than what West Ham have, albeit 9 of them came in one game against Leicester City. But they are there for the taking. This is such an important game for West Ham. It's such an important game for Pellegrini. And, I mean, again, you could be reading rumours left, right and centre, but let's just come on to our beloved West Ham right now. You're Pellegrini. You're West Ham still. You're in charge of the club. What are you doing on Saturday night? Are you going to go hell for leather to get that victory? Or is that going to be a dangerous position to be in? How important is this for Pellegrini's reign as a manager of West Ham? But equally, how important is it for West Ham to get the victory on Saturday?
Let's put it this way. If we get beaten on Saturday, there's every chance that we'll swap places with Southampton, depending on the Aston Villa game.
Yep.
So we could end up with our 12-day break after Saturday because we're missing the Liverpool game. We could end up going into Christmas in the bottom 3. So this is more than absolutely vital. I mean, there's been all this talk about Pellegrini was given 4 games or 5 games, whatever it was, to save his job, and he's only managed to scrape 3 points. And then we start hearing all this gossip about how he didn't train the team for the Chelsea win, that it was Maresca, who's, I think, one of the assistant coaches, that took the training. And then apparently Pellegrini took that training for the Wolves and the Arsenal games, and look what happened. How true that is, I don't know. You know, you don't know what's true and what's not. So for Pellegrini and for the team, it's absolutely vital. We actually need to. We can't go there complacent. We need to go for it on Saturday, and the only way that we're going to go for it is if we change our tactics, because we cannot keep playing 4-2-3-1 when we clearly don't have the players. We don't know if Cresswell's going to be fit, so the likelihood is Masuaku would keep his place, unless Pellegrini does the wise thing and brings in Ben Johnson from the under-23s, because Masuaku is an absolute bloody nightmare. And no matter what anyone says, he was responsible for 2 of the goals against Arsenal the other day on Monday night, because he allowed Pepe far too much space to cross the ball in, to score and to cross the ball in. You know, and whilst Cresswell, for the 55 minutes that Cresswell was on the pitch, he kept Pepe quiet. Pepe hardly had a bloody touch. So we've got to win. We've got to, even for the morale of the squad, for the morale of the team, we've got to go out there and we've got to put in a bloody good performance. And that good performance has got to reap reward, because then we have 12 days off, prepping us for the next game against Palace away. We've got to win. There's just no 2 ways about it. And will Pellegrini go? Honestly, you just don't know what rumour to believe, to be honest with you. I read a rumour today over this week that, Keane and Maresca, the assistant coaches, might take over if Pellegrini goes. Then I read today Harry Redknapp was back in the frame.
Let's be honest, though, Stel. I mean, if I got a lot to say about some of the in the knows that are out there these days, and if you link every single player or ex-player or manager or whatever to West Ham, and one of them comes through, then at least you're credible for saying it happened. But yeah, I'll believe it when I see half the stuff that comes out. And it really doesn't bother me saying that anymore. Like, half these guys just, let's link ourselves to Ancelotti. If it happens, it happens. So I don't know where I'm at with all of that sort of stuff. But when it comes down to, obviously, Saturday and how important it is for West Ham and Pellegrini, you say a change of tactics. Does that, and I'm assuming obviously you're kind of alluding to the fact formation. Is it back to the old school 4-4-2? I mean, this time last year, we had to resort back to the old school tactics of 4-4-2. We went on a decent run, and it kind of turned our season around a little bit, gave us the points we needed to kind of push our way up the league. Do you fancy watching another performance with another striker being isolated again? Do you fancy that as a West Ham fan? Do you also, I mean, I've said all along for the last month or forever and a day that I'm fed up with inconsistency in team selections, and throughout the whole site, like the whole 11, there's always inconsistency in team selections, and I can't help still but think that even in our defence, away from Masuaku, there's also going to be changes in a central defence because, again, there are rumours today talking about Diop has been rested for 3 games, and it looks like he's probably going to come back into the
He's going to
squad.
come back in.
And they reckon it is literally a
It's what you said. It's the other day, mate, isn't it?
Sorry?
I've lost you.
Yep, I'm here.
I lost you there. I lost what you.
All right.
You said the op could come back in.
Yeah. And it could be to the detriment of Balbuena or Ogbonna.
Yeah, and it will be, and it's what you said before, isn't it? That there is no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason to the team selections. They seem to have not been rhyme or reason all season. Now, I think, in fairness, Diop hasn't had a great season, and he was rightly dropped. But I think what Pellegrini does, he knee jerks. It seems to be that he just knee jerks. And now that we've had 3 goals scored against us, he's going to change it. And you just don't know who he's going to put at the back on Saturday. I think Martin will stay in goal. And if Creswell is injured, Masuaku will come in. Or as I've said, I think bite the bullet. Well, it's not even biting the bullet. He should make the right choice and bring young Ben Johnson in for that game.
Yeah.
And Fredericks will probably keep his place, and then it's a shuffle, isn't it, for the 2 central defensive roles, and you just don't know what he's going to do.
I looked again in the last 3 or 4 games, and it has been down to Ogbonna and Balbuena sitting in there in the central pairing. I can't help but think he is going to change that up again, and I think he's going to try and do that, try and get that partnership between Balbuena and Diop up and running again. I think he's given Diop the rest. I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'm not remotely saying that, but I have that suspicion. I just, sometimes you can read the marketing team from West Ham really well. Sometimes you think to yourself, Diop was bought to be the main centre half. He's had a 3-game rest. West Ham haven't performed well in the last 2 games, and historically, Pellegrini changes things 2 or 3 games if they're not performing well. And that's what I just can't help but think it's the time for that pairing. And I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying that I think that's what's going to happen. And it is inconsistencies. I think ideally he wants Creswell fixed. I think he favours Creswell over Masuaku. I don't think that's a no-brainer. But I don't know if I foresee him bringing in Ben Johnson. I would like him to do it. It's the reasonable thing for him to do. But I just don't think he'll do it.
I think Pellegrini's got to start thinking with his head. I mean, really, really start. If he's going to make changes, make positive ones. Don't make ones that just don't seem to make sense. And I think you're right. I think Diop will come in. I actually genuinely don't know whether he'll bring him in for Ogbonna or Balbuena. But we know damn well that Diop doesn't actually fancy playing on the left side of a defensive 2. So he should be playing. So strictly speaking, if he's going to bring Diop in, he should be playing alongside Ogbonna. Not that I'm saying Ogbonna's better or worse or whatever like that, or whatever, but it just happens to be a natural fit. Right-footed Diop, left-footed Ogbonna. But I fear you're right. I fear he's going to end up bringing in Diop, and he's going to drop Ogbonna again.
Yeah.
And I fear if that happens, we might suffer for that because they're not the partnership that they were last season. They're just not. And it's not the right time when we're severely under pressure. It's not the right time for him to start trying to bring back that duo. If we were sitting comfortably in mid-table, he could experiment. He can go, I can afford this. If we lose, it won't matter. He can't afford it. He can't afford it.
My only thinking again behind it is, again, looking at Pellegrini's kind of lifetime as a manager with West Ham and trying to read him as a book, and he's kind of known for when he is about to change things, and he's struggling. And again, this time last year he was struggling, and he went back to the 4-4-2 formation that was then cementing a partnership between Diop and Balbuena, and then he brought the 4 midfielders in with the 2 people up top. And I suppose moving away from the defence, I mean, I do think he will go 4-4-2. And to be honest, I want to see 4-4-2 because what's
I
currently
actually don't
happening.
think he will.
Do you
I
not?
want
No?
him. I want him to.
Yeah.
I want him to. We know damn well that he'll play 4 at the back. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
We know that's going to happen. I know a lot of fans would say we should be playing a 3-5-2. He doesn't play it. He doesn't play a 3-5-2, a 5-3-2, or anything other than a 4 at the back. So that is a given. And which of the 4 he's going to pick, depending on Cresswell's injury or not. I agree. I think he'll favour Cresswell. We don't know what he's going to do with the middle 2. Will he play 4 in the middle? I think he's going to end up being bloody stubborn again, mate. I actually really do. Because the time that it worked when we played a 4-4-1-1 against Chelsea, we were tight. And what we did, we made them play wide, which is not their game. We forced them out wide. We forced them to play an unnatural game, and that's why we beat them. But he's kind of gone back to tight. I mean, look what happened. Look what happened on Monday night. When West Ham conceded that, when Arsenal scored their first goal, West Ham conceded that goal, we collapsed. Our nerves went, and the 2 in the middle, Noble and Rice, lost their way. Because it was still a 4-2-3-1 formation, and they seemed really they were lost, and they were all of a sudden they were outnumbered, and Arsenal was attacking, and when that second goal went in, he should have made an instant change, and he should have got that 4-4-1-1 or 4-4-2 formation. But why are we even playing, 1 up front at home? Why are we even doing that? Which is why I don't think he's going to do it away. I really don't.
And quite I think come 4:00, 4:30 on Saturday afternoon, when we see that team announced, we're going to have that every 3 or 4 week feeling, which is, my God, Pellegrini is changing it all again. There's going to be 4 changes to the side, because that is honestly where I feel this will be. I feel like historically he shows that every 3 to 4 games he does a dramatic shake-up, and as fans we're just either flabbergasted, because I think on paper we know what side we want out there, but we never get that side on paper, or we get so close and then he puts Zabaleta in. Do you know what I mean? It's always that kind of, it's like he nearly names the side that we all want, and then bang, he does something else.
And
that's just a bit
and that's
random.
What I mean when I say he seems to be it's almost like panic decisions.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've just put a message up there, Skipsos, but says even if we bought some of those players that we mentioned from Southampton, will Pellegrini get the best out of them? Because it's interesting. He doesn't seem to be getting the best out of some of the players that we've got, but this probably goes back again to the formation we're playing. And if you don't play players in their right formation, it doesn't matter how good they are. They're not going to produce. So,
but still, again, moving further up the field, if you think about how, like we said recently, we've done a gift to the gab last night, our recent shows, we talk about how we've relied a lot on Antonio, his style of play, he causes a bit of havoc. Just imagine giving him a player who previously has relished when he is supported up top, Sebastian Haller, a chance. We have not seen that partnership start. We have not seen Sebastian Haller be supported.
And Monday night was the prime time to
opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And whilst that's happening, having the person who penetrates defences, Felipe Anderson, when you are that guy, I'm trying my best. I am trying my best to come across like I'm trying to support Felipe Anderson. But if you're a player with that ability who looks up and drives forward, and all you see is one player ahead of you, that's a tough gig, mate. What are you going to do? What is he forced to do?
And a lot of fans talk about Anderson saying, he's not doing well. He seems to give up. He keeps stopping as soon as he gets to the 18-yard box. Are you surprised? Because you've hit the nail on the head. He stops at the 18-yard box because he looks up and there's no one there.
Yeah,
exactly. There's no one to pass. Or if you've got one player to pass it to with 4 defenders around him,
Yeah.
What's he going to do? You know,
Yeah.
and that's why he has to stop. And then it's like, well, hang on a minute. I was on this momentum. Now I've got to stop, because had I been playing with other attacking players, they would have been around me. We would have been feeding off each other. And I know, Anderson has admitted to himself he's not been playing well. But I don't think any West Ham player has been
No.
playing well.
Yeah.
And I know they can produce, but it is down to, I've really defended Pellegrini for a long, long time. But even I'm at the stage now where I'm going, if he doesn't change it on Saturday when it's absolutely crucial,
Necessary. Yeah.
then he's not.
I think
And
we're
I'll
going to
tell you how
know.
frustrating.
I
Go
think
on,
we're
mate.
going to
Go on.
know what kind of game it's going to be an hour before kickoff. That's the West Ham we're at. That's the stage we're at as West Ham fans. We probably know what kind of game we're in for. Should we look at that lineup and see what we think? You know, we know when the lineup is announced what sort of game we're going to get. You know that
Yeah,
yourself, still.
yeah,
If we get the negative formation and the negative player and try and shut them down and close off the game and try and win the game 1-0, we're probably going to get beat 2 or 3-0. But if you look at that, when was the last time we looked at that team sheet and went, he's going for it. He's going for
yeah.
it. I can't
I haven't
remember
seen
it.
it.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
It was exciting on the game against Chelsea, because Antonio was back,
Yeah,
and we went, he's going for it, and even then he was only playing one up front.
yeah,
But you kind of knew that Antonio was going to give it some. He didn't have that same impetus as he did against Chelsea. He didn't have the same impetus as on Monday night, but there was a lot expected of him, and even though we played the same team as we did against Chelsea, for it worked for the first 60 minutes. It was all fine. But that's when, and I know we were actually, I mean, the sad thing about Monday night was we were pressing for another goal. But Arsenal did get a good goal back. And
yeah,
that's when Pellegrini should have made a decision on, right, okay, we were on the up, we had the upper hand. Let's get the upper hand back. But that's when it nothing changed, and all of a sudden the team looked really fragile.
yeah.
And that's when he should have maybe brought Allaire on then and went, all right, 2 up front, let's go for it. We've been doing well so far. Let's keep that momentum going. And that's why I'm really afraid, I've said it already, but that's why I'm really afraid that Saturday, I just think he's going to go 1 up front again.
Yeah.
And Schizo again, as Pellers is, he may make knee-jerk decisions on players, but not formation.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably going to be the lead into my question. We're going to come to the end of this preview, but the question really was going to be, we know we want changes. Do you think Pellegrini will do them? You've kind of alluded to the answer. You don't think he will make the changes we're looking for? I'm a bit...
He will make changes, mate. He will make changes, whether the right ones or not, I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, and I'm just trying my best again to be positive, but I just get this little suspicion that there will be changes that we will probably like to see, and I'm just really don't know if I've got false hope here, but let's just...
Well, there's a comment here from Neil. Morning, Neil. Hope you're well down there.
Yeah.
Diop alongside Rice, and you and I have discussed this before. The minute you put Rice in the centre of defence, you will possibly strengthen the defence, but you'll weaken the midfield, because right now we don't have any other player that's going to play alongside Rice. And if you take Rice out of midfield, that leaves you with Noble. Now, with the greatest of respect to Mark Noble, he doesn't have the legs to carry him. He was ruined after an hour against Arsenal, and he looked lost. He played a really good game, and then he looked tired. He looked lost. But who are you going to play alongside him? Because the only other player that will play defensively, dare I say it, is Carlos Sanchez. You don't want Noble and Carlos Sanchez in the centre of midfield.
I could agree with you more on that, although the point on Rice stepping back into centre-half position and us looking elsewhere, and I think that's up for debate in the West Ham fan base to the level of Masuaku Creswell, that stage, I think the fan base would be split, and I don't know if everyone would agree with you on the central midfield area, because for me it's a bit like currently it's not working, and I know you said that without Rice in there it could be worse, but currently it's like, what else is worse? Like
Well, mate,
eight defeats.
Carlos Sanchez is worse, mate.
No,
That's
I'm not
what's
saying.
worse.
But what I'm saying
That's
is,
what
I don't
happened.
know. I
That's
don't
what
know if
happened.
I don't know if we need those two types of players beside each other, like in that formation.
I get you, but I would feel more that he's got enough. He's got enough central defenders to pick the right two, at the moment.
Yeah.
And as it stands, despite us suffering on Monday night, as it stands for me, I would keep Ogbonna, and I would probably leave Balbuena there.
Yep.
And if he's going to make a change, then bring Diop in for Balbuena. That's what I would do. So he's got enough players to choose from to not have to resort to Declan Rice going in defence. You need Declan Rice in the middle, because I'll tell you what, our midfield is weak at the moment, and it will be a lot weaker with that. We've been relying on Jack Wilshere. We've been relying on other players to play in central midfield, and they're not available. They're either unfit or injured or not good enough or whatever, which is why, unfortunately, we're stuck with. And that's our problem of having not bought properly in the summer, which we've discussed again already.
Of course, if you're watching this preview, do me a favour. If you haven't commented yet, please comment right now on your thoughts on what we've mentioned about the central defensive pairing. Let us know your thoughts on the Masuaku Creswell debate. Who would you start? Let us know about the change of formation. It's really cool if you do.
Oh,
you guys are. Can you see me?
I can now. You disappeared, but you're back.
Oh, what's happened here?
You're still here. Still live.
I can't hear you still, but if you can hear me, that's fine. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on, like, do you think we should change the formation? Should we go to 4-4-2? It's really cool if you do engage with us and let us know what you're doing, especially if you do watch and you've never commented before. We just find it really interesting to hear your points of view. Also, get your comments in to let us know your opinions on the management. I see their comments that Stell's putting up. Harry Redknapp, the under-23 coach, is number 2 for now. But just it's your opinion. Let it know. The funny thing is, Stell, I'm really sorry we're going to probably have to close this. I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me?
And I don't know
if
that's something wrong with my side. And I'm assuming everyone can still hear Stell. So I'm just going to try my best to do this. Let's round this up. For me, the man to watch, and I'll pass it over to you, Stell, last, and you can close down the chat. For me, the man to watch from Southampton, to be wary of for Southampton, is Danny Ings. I'm concerned about this guy. I think he has got the potential to run rings around our defence. He's confident, he's scoring goals, and we need to really shut up shop with him. If Pellegrini rings the changes, which I hope he will, my prediction, make sure you get your predictions in right now and let us know. But I think there's going to be goals in this game. I think both teams are desperate for a win. And it's funny, you could always say this has got the potential to be a 0-0. But in actual fact, I don't think it is going to be a 0-0. And I'm going to go for, again, a positive West Ham fan. I'll take it right now. 3-2 win away from home to West Ham. Still, I can't hear you, but I'll let you close this off. Tell the fans everything, your side of you, man to watch, and your predictions.
Okay. Well, for me, we've won 4 of our last 5 games against Southampton, which is not a bad record. The last time we played there, Anderson scored his brace when he was on top form. I think Anton is right. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this. I agree. Ings is obviously going to be a man to look out for. I think Ward-Prowse, if they get a free kick anywhere around the box, is going to be dangerous as well. And I think for us, I'm hoping for a 2-2 at the very least. I'd love us to win, and if we do win, it would be by the odd goal. But I'm actually hoping it will be. I'm hoping we come away with a result, because if we don't come away with any result, I think that's going to be, bad news for us. So yeah, for me, it's likely to be a 2-2, but I think it could be, if we're lucky enough, we'll win 3-2. I'm trying to get through all your comments here. Anton's gone, as you've seen, so you just got me for the last minute or so. Bear in mind, Michaela's just back from injury. Yes, that's right, and we know, Schizo, that he was rested in between, after the Chelsea game, and I think that's why we need two up front, because Antonio has just come back from injury, and having him to put up with all that effort up front on his own wasn't right against Arsenal. I know it worked well for the first 50, 60 minutes, but that's when Allaire should have come on to support him sooner. So I agree with you. Yeah, we can't expect much from him, but he'd be much better if he has support. Let's have another. Yeah, Gary, 3-5-2. Yes, mate. But we know that Pellegrini doesn't play a 3-5-2 formation. He will always start with a 4 at the back, and I think the best thing for him to do is to play a 4-4-2. We need two solid banks of 4, and we need someone to support up front. I think you've all read the news this week that Allaire is quite upset because it looks like he says he's been made the scapegoat for our poor results. And I know a lot of fans are going, well, he's lazy, etc. A player can only play to the type of game that he's accustomed to. And Allaire has been accustomed to playing with 2 or 3 up front when he was at Frankfurt. And all of a sudden to play just 1 up front is not his game. So yes, it may look like he's being lazy, but I think he's isolated too much, and he doesn't know how to manage that type of game. I like this one, Richard. Let Sanchez drive the bus. I wouldn't let him drive the bus. He might bloody lose his bloody way, mate. Might not get us to Southampton at all. What else? We can't score 3. Yeah, we can if we play the right formation. Get your predictions below. Richard is saying 2-2 would be a great result for us. Schizo is saying Allaire and Antonio. Absolutely. Gary, can't see us winning another game until Pele's gone. Well, you might get that after Saturday's game if we don't win. Anton had just said, apologies everyone, not sure what happens. And my exit is imminent, and it is. So thank you all for watching. We appreciate you continuing to put up with us. We really want to bring you some good news, and I hope that will be after Saturday's game. For those of you who are traveling down there, have a good day out. Hope you bring the 3 points back, and subscribe to our channel and all that sort of stuff. And come on, you ones.